Bitter Truth. This is the podcast where we seek to understand the deeper, sometimes painful aspects of life and what it all means to us. I'm Vittorio.
And I'm Alex, and you're so right about the deeper, sometimes painful
aspects of life.
Yes.
Okay. Well, in today's podcast, we're going to be talking about 47, Mr. Trump and his re-election and the inauguration that took place on the 20th and all that has transpired since then and some of the dynamics of the conversation that's out there. Parents, daughters, sons, and all the things like that. So that's what we're going to talk about. So there you go.
I was dragged by my feet to record this. Just kidding. It's going to be a fun episode. I've been really just enjoying life in my little bubble, and I realize every time I turn on the news, it's just hell on earth. I realize.
Hell on earth. You mean the last 4 years? I agree.
Well, we could say last few hundreds, but so I've just been enjoying.
All right. So what have you been hearing out there?
What have I been hearing?
Yeah, from all the places and things you do and hear and.
Yeah, lots of sadness, apprehension, worry, lots of worry. And, I think in the last few years have tried to just depoliticize my mind as much as I can, because as being as political as I once was, it's extremely exhausting. And watching the news is very tiring, and it feels...
You're talking about traditional news channels?
Just being hyper aware of all of the horrible things that are happening in the world all at once every single day, as I was, studying political science and getting my degree. It's and then not just studying the current, but the past. It feels very disheartening after a while. So
it brought you to this point where you're depoliticizing yourself.
Completely. Okay. Yeah.
That's
and it feels... I think I'm centering myself more to the things that I care about, right? Art, God, love, my family, and it feels much better here.
Okay. Well, that's a very interesting way of approaching it. But in relation to, kind of what's taken place over the last truly 4 years, with the last administration who shall not be named.
Oh, no. Is it really like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that... the last 4 years has been difficult for the American people. Hyperinflation, bad policies, which have created even more hyperinflation. Somebody who has kind of been checked out, has been checked out for a long time. I have a hard time with anybody who's in politics for... the number of years that Biden's been in politics, and I think he's been in politics for 50 years.
Yeah, like his whole life.
Never held a job that I can remember.
Outside of it, yeah.
Outside of politics. And that's not the way our founding republic was put in place, was you were supposed to do a small-time service and then get back to your farms, your businesses, or whatever. But these politicians have made a career out of it. And I that's an abhorrent behavior to me. They should spend a few years, do your public service, and then get the hell out. But in fact, a lot of these politicians have enriched themselves. And this is on both political spectrums.
Of course.
It doesn't make a difference whether you're Republican or Democrat. These people, and I say these politicians have enriched themselves in a whole host of manners. You've got Pelosi making trades, the day before the inauguration or the day of. It's just mind-boggling that this person's become ultra wealthy doing that. And Biden, for example, he make? He made $180,000 as a senator, $400,000 as a president, and he's worth millions. Well, we all know the Hunter thing and the brothers and the whole family thing, so we'll get to that in a minute. But again, it's that enrichment of these politicians thinking that they can, whether it's an ego thing, and this probably is a component of that. But good Lord, happy that he's gone. And on his parting ways, what does this guy do? He does last-minute pardons of his entire family and does a preemptive pardon to all the whack jobs that have been, keeping our country down for the last 4 years. and I'll leave it at 4 years because I know it goes further back. What he didn't do is pardon himself. He should have done that.
Oh Lord!
But hey,
Come on now.
just saying.
I think
So-
there's a good amount of it's interesting because to hear your perspective and to hear all the other perspectives that I've been listening to
Sure.
over the past couple of weeks, it's pretty mind-boggling to consume so much information.
Sure.
Not just on these small computers we have in our phones or in our hands or, actual computers, TVs, everything, but to actually talk to other people and to realize how truly divided everyone is. And I know there's some collectiveness that you talk about of, everyone is happy with this decision and all that good stuff. I don't think as many people are.
Well, yeah, it's funny. It's funny.
Whether
right?
it's the Republicans or the Democrats, I think everyone is just as fucking confused as how we move forward.
I don't know about being confused. I know that there is still an element. There is a divided country. We have an inability to have discourse, polite discourse, which is something that I don't understand. I don't care what other people's opinions are as long as I respect the person. I can respect the opinion. I may not agree with it, but unfortunately, there are a whole host of our society that don't respect other people's opinions or feelings. And that's the problem. That's why the country's so divided.
It's that, and it's
polarized.
also this like inherent need, and I fell victim to it many times in the past, where you want so badly for the other person to see you, right? To acknowledge you, to understand where you're coming from. It's not just about respect. People want more than that. They want acknowledgement, and they also want you to agree with them. They want to convince you so much through their own moral compass or whatever perspective they're coming from. They want you to say, I see you and I get you, and actually I'm with you, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think I wanted that. I wanted in all, I was the kid in class in college that would just like go to town arguing, debating people. Like that was my thing. I mean, shit, you raised me, right? So, I wanted people to see where I was coming from, and I wanted to bring them to my side. And majority of the time I think everyone is stuck in all of their ways.
Sure, we become this tribalism of opinion and thought, but there's a reality that if you can't if you can't convey an argument, in a form of communication, then you can't blame the other person. Maybe they lack a full understanding of the problem that's being discussed, or they are so blocked. And there are people in our society that are highly intelligent on both sides of that fence that can't see the trees through the forest, which is bizarre to me, that they can formulate their opinions and not see what got us there, or they're so hunkered down in their dislike for one person or another that it doesn't matter what's taken place. So, I am politically, fiscally conservative, and I'm a social moderate. That's how I view myself and always have been. Though at times, I might decry one political party over another, but over the years, there's been no political party that has had my favor. In one policy over another, maybe, I'll lean that direction. But I care more about the economy, right, of our country, because with the economy that is strong, everyone down the line does get lifted up. It's just the realities of it. It goes beyond Reaganomics, but it is the reality of it, right? Our financial structure, our economic structure is the greatest structure, and it's been proven. It's been lifted. It's lifted more people out of poverty than any other economic structure. So I don't care what the young people talking about communism or socialism, I should say. There's not been one socialistic, right, economy out there, or communist society out there that preaches or does socialism that's ever succeeded. China is not a socialist society. No, it's a hybrid society of socialism and a big big capital markets society, and they do it well.
I mean, there's no way that communism and capitalism can exist in the same place, right? And that's why
communism is a political structure. So
that's what
socialism is
socialism.
economic.
There's no way that socialism and capitalism can exist in the same sphere. One needs to go down for the other to exist.
Well, yeah.
And vice versa.
So China in itself, right? So China itself is more capitalistic, right, in its nature, but they present the socialism, right, as their form. So it's interesting. So political views, I have no love for either party, and I think we should scrap our political system, start with something better, newer, fresher.
Well, it's funny too because the majority of countries have numerous parties, and
that's parliamentary though.
Right.
Yeah. So.
But it's also the interesting fact that, you know, I think we are so black and white now where if you feel like Israel is deserving of a state, you deserve death and this and that and this and that. If you are, wanting the poor to have basic human rights, you are a fucking liberal and you need to this and this and that, right? So it's Jacob and I have conversations all the time. Well, what do you think about this? What do you think about teaching this in schools and stuff like that? And we can have our own opinions, but they don't necessarily need to live somewhere underneath some title. And I think that's where we are getting in a lot of trouble as a society, is that we are putting everything in one box. You are a Republican, you are a Democrat, you are a liberal, you are a conservative. There's no middle ground. There's no sprinkle of here and there, because if there is, then you are just...
Well, we've lost that middle ground where, where you can have an affiliation to one party or another, but not necessarily agree with everything that party does. And that's the framework of having these camps that we have, somehow created over the last 20 years,
and that makes it difficult for people to ask questions. It makes it difficult for people to, feel like they can belong somewhere, because if they have an opinion that goes against their party or their larger group, then the group is wants to X them out and cast death upon them.
Well, I see that more with the progressives and the Democratic Party than I do the Republican Party, from what I've seen.
The Republican Party just calls you the biggest insult that the Republican Party has, and that's a liberal, right? No one wants to be called a liberal.
Not anymore, though.
But on the left,
they wear it as a moniker now.
But on the left, there is so much division, and that's where we get into some real problems, is that we kill each other before we can even stand up. And, it's been difficult in the circles that I've been all across the left, where, you see the contradiction, you see certain things, and us not being able to have certain conversations with each other, and then we just fight, or we just, it gets angry. People get pissed off, and then the group disbands or the conversation ends because we can't have these conversations. It's really hard because a lot of people don't have answers to things.
It goes to education, and I'm not talking about. I'm talking about less informed people. There's a lot of ill-informed individuals out there, dumb people, and I'll say it out there. There's a lot of just people who don't know what the hell they're talking about. I don't profess to know every nuanced aspects of the politics or the behind the scenes aspects, or one progressive movement versus one conservative movement. I don't know all of those nuances, but I have a very clear understanding. Politics should not be taught in school. Okay, clearly the school is meant for education, math and the sciences, reading, writing, right? Period. You got morality should be taught at home. And as far as politics go, within a certain age group, you start understanding and formulating your thoughts about society and everything else. Unfortunately, higher education has been indoctrinating young people for decades. And that's why we have the situation we have. Higher education has moved away from education to indoctrination of one political view over another.
Or social views.
Exactly, social engineering. And those are all those dynamics which are the destruction of the fabric that is the country, right? So, you talked about a lot of the young people that you've been, or some of the news outlets that you listen to or whatever, that you're hearing this or hearing that the world's coming to an end now because President Trump is back in office. And the reality is, I don't hear that and I tend to be pretty good about listening to a host of different types of news, but I don't get my news from social media. I don't get it from People Magazine, like
Oh,
some people I know. No,
yeah,
there are
no.
people who do that.
Who do we know?
That'll be named nameless, but there are people who get their media or their news from TikTok or from
Well, it's crazy
one social
because
media outlet or another.
Gen Z and Gen Alpha are not getting their news. We don't trust traditional news anymore.
Who does?
News is dead, right?
Yeah.
So we don't get really any information from traditional media.
Sure.
So where does that lead us to? It leads us to
Facebook,
YouTube,
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah.
I've been watching lots of YouTube news. The people that I've spoken to listen to a lot of news podcasts. So it's people that are doing their own due diligence and researching on their own accord, because traditional journalism is
Unfortunately,
gone,
he's dead. I mean, and you see it. The problem with our media,
As a journalism major.
that's right.
I know.
Yeah, we've been listening about fake news now for 20 years, or if not longer, right? So media has had a slow death, and the nail is in the coffin, and that coffin is in the ground. So media in itself, and what we call media, I'm talking about traditional news outlets. I mean, just ridiculous. It's all opinion pieces now, right? You've got these ridiculous shows like The View, which I don't even know who would listen to it other than the crazy, crazy, crazy left progressives.
Really? I don't know anyone that watches shit like that.
No, neither do I.
And I know crazy progressive. I know crazy people on the left.
But the problem-
crazy people on the left, and we laugh at shit like that.
Yeah, of course, but there's still people out there listening to it.
Pretty sure it's just like retired people.
Maybe, I don't know. But then you've
But
got,
I know the right loves talking about The View.
no, that's just one aspect. You've got the MSNBC, which is on the verge of bankruptcy or is in bankruptcy. They're killing shows left and right, and you've got that crazy race baiter Joey Reid. The blog, just nutty people.
Definitely not my generation consuming that.
Yeah. So you get all that kind of news, and you're talking about your generation consuming news in different ways and stuff like that. I totally get it because watching traditional media, it's laughable. It's comical. It's all opinion piece based. There's no real hard facts. No one questions anything on one side or the other unless they're talking about the other party, which is ridiculous. So.
And it's hard because when we talk about education, misinformation, when you have to pull resources from all these different places to create an opinion while working your job, while taking care of your family, while paying off school debt, while doing all these things, do people have time to do that?
People do, because I think it's important to them. People.
Yeah, it might be important, but for the average person that is deep in it, right? Well, no one has the capacity. A lot of people do not have the capacity to read 10 different articles of different opinions and see, okay, so through all these, this is what I pulled from it, and this is the opinion I have about this one public policy or one thing. It's True. Like, no, it's impossible.
There is a lot of information out there. I think that I've always taken an approach that when I wake up, get to the office and have my coffee, I spend about 10 to 15 minutes snapshotting every
And you've
piece
always
of
done that.
I've
You've always done that my whole life.
Yeah. And I do that to stay informed. Not at the level or depth that you probably need to, but enough information where I can absorb the basis of what's that conversation of. And there are what you've witnessed over the last 4 years, if not longer, over the last 20, is a bastardization of information. You've got people that say very stupid things about Israel. I mean, ignorant stuff, and they have their political views. Israel doesn't, whether it has a right to. They have existed. They are a nation state. They have existed in biblical times. So there's nothing different that's ever going to change there, right? So it's just to fill a narrative as it relates to the Middle East. And then you've got other situations where we have tried to, social engineer our society with changes, this whole DEI stuff, thank God, truly, that should be kept out of of government, you know? And, you know, I'm glad that that was one of those executive orders killing DEI, because I thought it was just an abhorrent behavior by our government.
It was pretty funny when I saw it at first. Just when I saw the list, and we'll go into that a little bit later, but when I saw the list of executive orders and I saw that one on there, I was just like, was it worth the ink to write that down?
Absolutely, because it tears apart at the social structure of this country. So that's my opinion, and these are only my opinions as they are yours. You know, there are people out there that are going to disagree vehemently about you, about me, and about other thoughts that we might bring up, and that's okay. I don't have to be, my opinions don't have to be, you know, treated as anything other than that. It's an opinion.
Right.
But
and it's from your own experience, right? And that's the other thing too. You know, I've been criticized for not speaking up more and have, you know, and I'm only using our generation's terms, but it's, you know, you are white passing, so you need to be at the center and at the front of, you know, this type of discourse, protecting others and, you know, doing everything you can to push this narrative. And okay, but you're doing all of these things, but that's not enough because you haven't said this, or you haven't done this, you haven't posted this thing on Instagram. Right. And I mean, and I don't know if it is like that on the right side, but God, on the left, it can be very, very alienating.
You hear that noise? That's our trash. Trash being picked up.
I doubt they can hear it.
Sorry for some of the noise, but
I doubt they can hear it. But you know, it's hard. I spent 5 years at the border because I believe that there should be a full path to citizenship in this country, and I feel for these people that are sacrificing their lives in this way, coming through the desert, dying in the desert, for a better chance, and I do believe people deserve that ability. And it's hard because you read the news, you see the crazy shit that people say, and then when you're in the desert and you're seeing the death and the bones on the floor, there's something is not connecting, you know, and that's hard because I'm talking to people and, you know, our leadership is bandaging people's feet, and it's so emotional. It's such an emotional thing. And you make these connections with this community, and you see your own family in them. And then to hear people say some crazy shit, it makes you just want to go underneath a blanket and hide.
There's a reality that, you know, legal immigration is definitely something that we should champion. Illegal immigration is something we should fight against, because this country cannot support the poor from other countries when it can't even feed its own poor in, you know, American citizens. You know, we've got a homeless crisis in the state of California, which is been poorly managed, and when I don't have any, you know, I don't pull any punches when it comes to Gavin Newsom, that empty suit that he is, where we can't even we don't even know where $24 billion has gone to for the homeless, right? So I pay my taxes, one of the highest taxes in the country, and you know, California is in a decline and has been in a decline for a very long time. So,
and even more so with these fires.
Yeah, well, yeah. So again, politics, and, you know, Gavin Newsom, the empty shirt that he is pushing for one thing. He wants to be in higher office, right?
You do you really think so?
You know what? I don't think he's going to get there. You know, and I could be wrong, but let me tell you something. We've seen so many variations.
I mean, Trump got in, so
realities. So I think that Gavin Newsom has a hard battle to fight, only because his accomplishments are non-existent. Much like Kamala Harris's accomplishments, they're non-existent.
Well, it's difficult for, I'll say the same thing about Kamala as well, for the right and the radical left. You guys agree in the sense that everyone the both groups hate Gavin and they hate Kamala and they hate a lot of these politicians. So, how are these politicians going to get through? It's through that's very small group that is still traditionally Democratic. And there aren't many, the Hillary loving people, and I know a few of them, and it's interesting.
It's if you look at the framework of our country, it's predominantly conservative. You know, if you look at the voting blocks throughout the 50 states, I mean, the country is hard red in the sense of conservatism, and you've got the outlining, border cities like, and I don't say border meaning other country borders, but you're talking about, California, you've got Los Angeles, San Francisco, in Illinois, you've got Chicago and New York, and then you've got Miami. You've got
I would say a lot of the left would agree that it's very conservative everywhere.
Those are all very pockets. Unfortunately, like Las Vegas, right? Las Vegas controls what happens in the majority of the state. But if you look at the majority of the state's voting, it's all red, controlled by a small block in Las Vegas or a large block in Las Vegas. So these are the problems that we have, where small pockets of major metropolitan centers control those states' resources. And that's a problem, right? So it's underrepresented in each state. And then we've got the issues of, single party rules, like in California for the last 40 some odd years or whatever it's been now, if not longer, where like in our beautiful state of California, it's been completely decimated. We got the greatest weather on the planet. We really do from from a living perspective, yet we can't manage our resources. We can't manage water resources. We can't manage, fire resources. We can't manage police resources. We have random just crime everywhere. It's a disaster that it is in California. And yeah, I live here. I see it, and I pay the taxes to it. So it's been tough. So I think the entire country feels like most of us feel in California, where we're kind of done with the current politics. I think to bring this back to President Trump's return to office, I think that in his first go around, everyone felt that this guy is going to come in and tear apart the political swamp that is Washington, D.C., right? So he started doing that process. And of course, you like it. I mean, both left and right hated that concept, right? Because it dismantles the traditions of, Washington, D.C. and the, military establishments and all those kinds of things that we all know spend enormous amounts of resources. And, the return of Trump is just that. It's a continuation of finally, hopefully, dismantling the craziness of Washington, D.C. That's how I view it. I could be wrong. That's my viewpoints. That's all it is. So, but that's the only reason why I see he was voted back in. It is to continue that dismantling of Washington, D.C. and hopefully giving opportunity to other people. The Hispanics, the blacks, in large numbers voted for Trump. Large numbers.
Yeah, the evidence is there.
And so now you have that situation where you've got the blacks of the United States saying, some groups saying, how can you vote for Trump when he's a racist? Well, there's no proof ever that he was a racist. It is the demagoguery that goes on the political left and what gets said, and then the talking points that just get repeated a billion times. When a lie becomes the norm, then it becomes the norm. Right, so that's what they've been doing, and now it's this concept that he's a racist. Well, if he's such a racist, then why are so many blacks voting for him in large numbers?
I think it's interesting because, it might not be a full, it might not be a full-fledged thought of support, right? A full gung-ho.
Sure.
No, for a lot of people, it was I don't know what else to do vote. You know what I mean? And if the Democratic Party is dead, if there is no good Democratic candidate, where a lot of people feel connected to them and they feel that they can trust them, what else are people going to do, right? Not vote? Yeah, a lot of people don't vote, and I've gone times not voting as well. But it's the fact that when you live for 4 years with a certain president, and let's say that you don't really feel the everyday effects of their presidency, whether it be based out of privilege or not. You're like, okay, well, I already kind of did it. We already did it for 4 years. I guess we can just do it again. All of that to say, I'm sure for a lot of people, it wasn't 100% vote.
Well, that's certainly a perspective. I don't know what privilege has anything to do with it, with voting one way or another.
Well, when politics don't affect you, when you feel like you can go throughout your day and not be affected, at least in a grand way, right? For me, I would say, I can go every day throughout my life and most of the time feel unaffected by who is in office, and that is coming from a place of immense privilege. My family isn't poor. I have a great job.
Yeah.
I can afford to pay taxes for one. I pay a shit ton, but at least I can afford to, right? All of these things come from privilege. And to say that the next 4 years, I'm coming at it from a perspective of extreme apprehension, and worry, but I'm not shedding tears, and I'm not scared, and that's because it doesn't affect me.
Yeah, I think it's a misconception to say that it doesn't affect you, because everything that our politicians do, both at the local, the state, and the federal levels, impact our society.
They impact our society, but I'm saying in a tangible way. Every single day when I get up in the morning, am I thinking about how our politics is affecting me? Am I dealing with those consequences every day?
I think you are.
In which way?
I think you are. If you think about it, if you don't get that parking pass that's required in the city that you live, you can get a ticket. That's an ordinance. That's a tax. If you don't, when you have to pay 13% of your income to the state of California, and yet you see every bum on the street down the block, from where you want to go get your coffee, your latte or otherwise,
and maybe that
is affecting you.
Right. And what my argument is that whether it be something I'd like to admit or not, me understanding that, understanding these taxes and these different rules that I have to follow, and okay, in February my car insurance, my tags are due for my car, and all this stuff. It is just a part of it all, right? It is not. I am not angry at our government, and I'm not allowing it to ruin my day, because I understand that is so outside of my scope.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, politics doesn't ruin my day either. It's more a point of discussion, right? I can rant and rave about one situation or another with our politics and stuff, and my girlfriend will say, do something about it. Go vote. I mean, go run for office and make changes. No way. I mean, I get what she's saying, but I'm not going to go run for office, because
who would want to do that?
Every skeleton, I got an ex-wife that will say negative things about me. I mean, hell, even you might come out of the woodwork and say something. No,
you have two ex-wives that might say crazy things about
you. I wouldn't want to butcher my life that way, but
And I'll say, like, God, I would hate to have Gavin Newsom's job right now. I would hate to be Trump. I would hate to be. I do not envy these people, despite their money or their whatever they have. I would not want to be them at all in any way, shape, or form, because that sounds like a terrible life.
No, I mean, I think that there are politicians that do it for truly a better calling or a higher calling. There are others that are self-serving, and we see them all in our society. So
it's hard to think of the politicians that are doing it answering to some higher calling.
There are. I mean, there truly are. Yeah. I think that they want to do their community part. I can't name one, but I have to think. I have to think that there are. So, but it is what it is. I mean, I don't know. So when we talk about that, right? So when Trump was sworn in on Monday the 20th, he rolled off in his inaugural speech some highlights, some snippets of some of his executive orders he was going to do. And I actually wrote some down because I thought it was important to, I was trying to write them down quickly, and the ones that triggered my mind were, and I'm going to read them off so you have a baseline of what I was going at. So first thing was trade, right? Tariffs, an executive order, increasing tariffs to countries that have harmed the U.S. economically. Great, love it. There was something that I read somewhere in the past few days where prior to the last 50 years, or could be longer, so don't hold me to it, but tariffs used to pay for our was the largest tax base we got. Now, salary revenues or salary tax or taxes from salary is the larger revenue. we do need to reverse that because we are the largest marketplace on the planet, right? We have the largest consumer base in the planet. So, we need to make sure that we're being treated and our products are being treated fairly across the country or across the world, I should say. So I thought that was pretty cool. The stop censorship in America. I think that was an important executive order. I think we should have free from censorship. We should be able to say First Amendment rights, all those good things.
You better talk to his buddy Mark Zuckerberg then.
I think, and we'll talk about that.
Because he's the biggest.
Well, I'll tell you something. You see the entire, all of these social network platforms now shifting away from this concept of DEI and censorship. And you see it. That's why Zuckerberg was there. That's why Google, ABC was there. They're moving away. They can read the tea leaves better than our own politicians.
I'll just say Mark Zuckerberg is a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's going to go with the wind wherever he needs to go, and he definitely cannot be trusted along with a lot of those people. But continue.
But exactly that. He may not be, but you may not be able to trust him. But the reality is, he's seen the change of wind, or the winds of change, and he's got to react to it. So he's got to react to it.
And just say, be careful with that one.
Well, that's that. Hopefully, we'll put in some strong legislation to keep them hold them accountable, right? So, restore the rule of law, right? So there's a few executive orders regarding the Justice Department. No more going after political allies or political enemies. So that's good. Where previous administrations, that's all they did. That's all they did. They chased after the individual looking for a crime. Trump was faced with that, and a bunch of other people were faced with that approach. So I thought that was it's a terrible way of using our Justice Department. And of course, a good one, the end of DEI. Right? What does DEI stand for?
You guys are really into DEI.
What does it stand for?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Right.
What a joke. Social engineering. Oh my God. So I thought that was wonderful. So ending that.
And look, as someone that has such a high capacity for empathy, I really, it's interesting, I'll say. Very, very touching how much people are angry about DEI.
Why?
Oh my God.
Simply one reason.
I pray for them.
No, one reason. You know why? We are returning back to a merit-based society. Not somebody, you get the job because you're the best qualified, regardless of your skin tone.
100%.
Okay? Or your female parts. It doesn't make a difference. If you're the best qualified, you get the job. That's why DEI needs to be tossed away, right? You've got people like Kamala Harris was brought in because of DEI, right? And she's probably dumber than a rock, and Biden didn't want somebody to kind of show him up. So there you go. So two genders is now the official approach of the United States.
And what does that mean to you?
Male and female. So.
And wasn't that not the consensus before?
Well, not under the DEI concept and the transgenderism that's been going on in our country over the last several years. So it's just, put it out there. There's only two genders, male and female.
Copy that.
If everybody if people want to call themselves or feel that they are one way or another, God bless you. But, unfortunately,
so
you were born with a chromosome XY or XX. You are who you are.
So what does that mean when you apply for an ID?
It'll say female.
Normally
or male.
it says female, male, or X.
It will no longer X.
Says X. Damn, that shit's so cool though. Imagine if your gender is X. That's so sick.
It is.
I've always loved that moniker, like
that.
Malcolm X.
I understand that. I understand that. And then another executive order was returning the. Military, whoever got laid off because of the COVID-19, not willing to take the vaccine, they've all been reinstated with back pay, which I thought was phenomenal.
Wow, interesting.
Which is very good because you don't want to harm our military. Our military should not be a focus of social engineering. It should be a focus of defending the United States.
God, we got to take care of our veterans, though.
And we do. So changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Dad, this is the type of shit that I'm like, okay, you can,
You have to understand the reasons why.
God, this is where you guys mess up all the time. It's where you guys do the dumb, like you guys support the dumbest shit.
Why was it changed? Why was it changed?
Oh my God.
Tell me why it was changed.
Tell me, okay, please, because I'm just as flabbergasted as you.
People need to see beyond the change of the name. So Biden, in one of his thoughts, was to freeze drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. Mm-hmm. So by the one way to undo that, and this is what I've read, right? This is what I've seen. The only way to undo that is to get rid of the name Gulf of Mexico. Because if he doesn't label it the body of water between that location, this location, that location, well, then guess what? By renaming it to the Gulf of America,
and he wants to drill everywhere.
We can drill.
You guys just want to kill the planet, don't you?
We want to make sure that the resources of this country is being used for the benefit of the American people, bringing down inflation. Because the reality is, not everybody can afford an electric vehicle. So we're going to need gasoline. And that's another thing. He's eliminated these mandates for electric cars. Thank God. Because I can't afford an electric car.
That was also an interesting thing that I
can't afford that Porsche Taycan,
Dude, same.
Or the Tesla 120, whatever the hell they are.
Yeah, we'd love an electric car. We just can't afford it right now.
And we don't have the infrastructure.
Right.
So those were removed.
No, those are definitely true. But it's interesting the way, because God, that headline, and it's hard because, same thing with our news organizations. We have zero respect for traditional politicians and non-traditional ones too. No one has any respect for the American president anymore. And that is just the sheer fact. At least the younger generations, even millennials, and especially anyone on the left, right? So, God, that headline on New York Times, it adds to it. It adds to what the fuck is Trump thinking?
They don't understand the underlying rationale behind it.
And no one's going to read the article. They're just going to see the headline and be like, what the is wrong with this guy?
Again, and it goes to the lack of intelligence of people.
It's just so fascinating and so funny.
Because they're not informed. So I thought that was a wonderful way of approaching it, right?
God, it's just certain things where I'm like, yay.
It was pretty cool. It was an interesting way of approaching the problem that Biden created, which was to change the name of the body. He also changed the name from Mount McKinley was Mount McKinley until they changed it to some funky indigenous name, whatever. So all President Trump did was rename it back to Mount McKinley. It's like, the left or the progressives are trying to change, our historical context, and that's just not what should be done. So he just went back and renamed it back to Mount McKinley. But that's what happened with the Gulf of America, and it's now being used, and it's been done.
And is that what we're calling it now?
That's what it's called. And the reason for that, once again, is to be able to kill those orders that Biden did. So drill, baby, drill. We gotta use our resources to get resources back into the country. So, and sell those resources when necessary. So part of these executive orders was killing the new Green Deal.
Looking forward to more fires soon. Then
the fires was not started
I knew
because of climate. The fires in California was bad leadership.
That definitely adds to it for sure.
So so the Green Deal is dead. Thank God. We've wasted so many dollars trying to strike up these green deals where it doesn't go anywhere. It's just a money pit and whatnot.
I mean, all of that
Paris Accord.
All of that to say, Mother Earth will exist long after we are dead. She does not need us. We need her.
We think that we have some capacity to hurt the Earth. The Earth has been around and will be around long before we have.
Oh yeah, we're gonna kill ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine. So we'll look forward to that one.
It is what it is. So that has now been stopped, which is great. As and of course, getting out of the Paris Accord was great because it holds us higher accountability. We have higher accountability than countries like India and or China, which are the largest producers of filth into the environment. So. You can't have it both ways.
We're up there with them for sure.
We're not. We're actually not. We're actually we have a higher standard in our industry as most developed countries are, but China's a developed country and they don't have the same standard, which is bullshit. So get out of it, right? The World Health Organization, get out of that organization, which is complete UN system. One of these outshoots of the UN. We got out of that as well. So that's what created the COVID-19. Don't even get started on Fauci.
Oh right? My God! Now we're going into a fucking dark hole.
Yeah, well, there you go. And of course, then the big one that I had just that had been signed. I think it wasn't mentioned in his speech, but was something that had come up. I think on the first day of the signings was the executive order on birthright. So there are loopholes, not loopholes. There's context to the language of the 14th Amendment, which created an opening for the executive order. So this will get litigated, and I think 22 states are already starting the litigation, which is great because it does need to go to the Supreme Court for complete and clear resolution. So,
God, but the Supreme Court is also just a hellhole too.
Why so? Why? Because we don't have any. We have fewer liberals in there than we do conservatives.
I mean, it's interesting that you talk about how politicians shouldn't be in politics for too long. There has to be a term, there has to be a limit, and then there's the Supreme Court. It's just interesting.
Sure. I don't know whether term limits is a way to approaching it, but I would be open to that discussion, as people should be, right?
For sure.
So, but that that was an executive order that came down, and the whole birthright, where you can drop a baby if you're visiting, on a visa, and you drop your load, and all of a sudden that baby becomes an American citizen. No, it's not right.
It's interesting because I think where we both parties, both sides, work at such extremes all the time, right? And you say like you're just visiting, you drop a load, like the chance of that happening that way.
Oh, I mean,
it's low. It's
actually not.
But that's the way y'all lead the conversation is there's going to be people that are, you like my Republican boys. There's going to be people that are going to do this and they're going to visit here from some slave country, Guatemala, AIDS, blah, blah, blah. And they're going to drop a AIDS baby here.
Are you talking about?
That's how y'all talk. I swear. Sorry. Maybe that's just how I'm hearing it.
That's what you're hearing because you come from that. And God knows where you got that because the reality is
I got that from you guys because you guys think that everything happens. And I'll say the same thing about both sides. And that's why I talk about how if you are not fully here or fully on the other side, you are exiled from both because you need to be full force with each. And y'all talk like that and it's scary.
No. So when we talk about the birthright situation is there is a level of organization to some things that I thought you said you're going to turn that alarm off.
That's a medication alarm. That one never goes off. Sorry.
So, there are reasons why sometimes people come pregnant to visit. Mm-hmm. It's done very deliberate. I'm not saying it's done in its entirety, but it does happen, right? It does happen. And the premise of being able to be here as a foreigner and have a baby here on a visa, tourist visa or otherwise, and now that kid is an American citizen? No, there's something wrong with that. And I think there are only 33 countries of the 200 some odd countries that are out there that actually do something similar to that. So what President Trump's approach here was, because of the language in the 14th Amendment, the lawyers saw an opening which could bring that discussion to the Supreme Court for complete adjudication. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a while, but
it will, yeah.
So we'll see what happens, right? And then he talked about, which I thought was something interesting, was the landing on the Mars. A manned mission to Mars.
Again, y'all are so into destroying this planet here, and then
who's into destroying this planet?
I mean, you're saying drill, baby, drill.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're like, okay, let's do that, and then just go and try to colonize another planet, or
no one's colonizing another planet.
What do you guys want to do on Mars?
It is a manned mission to Mars, much like there was a manned mission to the moon, right? It's exploration. The American mindset is about exploration, where I think that we can garner all kinds of information and all kinds of scientific, studies. I don't know whether that's a good thing. I personally don't. When we've got so many people hurting in America, to spend those kinds of dollars.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot
That's
of money.
a tough one. Now, if the U.S. government is a partner of private industry, maybe like SpaceX, then I'm all for that, right? But for the U.S. taxpayers to foot the bill, no, I don't think so. I don't know, you know. So it's a tough one for me, but I'm glad that, we've got that explorer mindset back out there. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, we've always had the explorer mindset. That's all we've been doing since the start of this country is exploring everything.
Well, now it's out there in the in the consciousness of our population, which is always a good thing. So those were some of the
there were lots
of the major executive orders.
Yeah.
There was one that came down, which a lot of people were pissed off about on the left, right? Which was the pardon of the 1,500 J6ers, right? So I think, I'm a little bit tossed about that. Hopefully they didn't release, there was a handful of folks that actually did do some destruction and some damage. So hopefully those weren't released, but I don't know the extent of it. Maybe they were commuted versus a full pardon. But I understand the logic behind why he did it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but hey,
just out here pardoning everybody.
Much like Biden did. Yeah. 8,000 people pardoned, including baby killers.
Everyone does it.
Yeah. Not everyone does it. In fact, that's
no, I'm saying Trump and Biden, everyone's pardoning whoever they, and that's their right as presidents, right?
No, yeah, that's the benefit they have, but obviously you have to read through the context of why things are being done. So that came up recently in the last few days. Was that I think that was a major thing, was the party, and this wasn't anything that was done by surprise. Everybody knew he was going to do it.
Yeah, of course.
Not everybody necessarily agrees with that component of it, but it is what it is, right? It was done certainly for political reasons.
And I think everyone kind of knew who Biden was going to pardon as well, or who he was going to protect through pardoning, like Fauci, like everyone kind of knew.
Yeah, there was the J6 committee. It was a bit shocking because it was a preemptive pardon. That was why it was a little bit like, what's he doing? So, of course, you're pardoning somebody who hasn't even been,
But it's just
so, and then you've got his entire family. First Hunter, months ago, where he said he spent the better part of 3 years saying, "I'm not going to do that."
Yeah,
and then
of course.
And then he pardons
down to it.
And then he pardons his son, right?
Yeah,
Then he pardons his son, and then he says, "Okay, not only am I going to pardon my son, but I'm going to pardon my entire family."
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's afraid that Trump's going to do some crazy ass shit. I mean,
what crazy ass shit? Other than you commit a crime, you steal money, you get money from foreign entities. That's a crime.
And it's interesting that they have to make that point of just because I'm pardoning doesn't mean these people are guilty, right? And if you take the pardon, does that mean you're admitting guilt?
Exactly.
There's a lot of psychology to that I think is really interesting.
Yeah. So when we talk about this, we talk about the inauguration, we talk about President Trump's next 4 years and the impact of his executive orders, his domestic policy and his foreign policies will be felt. The reverberations are taking place across the world, right? And so it's going to be very interesting how the meltdown in the media continues to happen, because I've been watching it. Just a lot of crazies out there melting down and whatnot. So it'll be an interesting next 4 years of what happens. And it's kind of funny. We talked about how does this affect family. In our family, we have people who are hard left, hard right. We actually have texting groups.
Traditional left.
We have texting groups, family text groups that when something is said politically, we text one group and not add the other folks to it, because obviously they're a little sensitive. So we are very mindful of other people's feelings in our family. We have some crackpots in our family too. Don't get me wrong. We've got some
on all sides.
We've got some conspiracy theorists, and I will admit one in particular, which I will not name. He was actually right about a couple things. So
which ones?
I wrote him down
because we have a family member that believes the Earth is flat.
No,
we do.
No, I don't know who the hell are you talking about.
I'll tell you later.
Okay, you tell me that. Yeah. So again, we have family members that are on both sides of that spectrum. So I have my partner. We are polar opposites on most social stuff, political stuff. The beauty of having polite discourse is that it doesn't make a difference what you believe. You, my daughter, is an example. I know some of the crazy stuff you believe. That doesn't change the love and affection I have for my child, right?
Thank you, Daddy.
And that of my son and my youngest daughter, who's a little bit more apolitical. She doesn't what?
She's too young right
Who cares,
now.
right? But my girlfriend, exactly. So she has viewpoints, and I'll call her a crackpot here and there. She calls me a crackpot, and we have good laughter about it.
Yeah.
We have good conversation about it, and in the end, she loves me and I love her, and it doesn't make a difference because in the end, I know where her heart is.
Yeah.
I know how she cares about society as a whole, and if I could just get her to stop reading some certain levels of news or whatnot. Now,
Jacob and I have very similar conversations. We'll be like, okay, give me some hot takes, just some off the wall shit, right? And I'll say something crazy, and he'll say something crazy, and I'll tell him, okay, you can't don't say that at work, or don't say that out loud, right? But it's that safety where you're able to just be like, I don't know if I fuck with this, or I don't know if I agree with this thing that my group agrees with or whatever. And it's just interesting because he's very much a screw the sides thing, screw this party or this party. I don't like, you know what I mean? So it's refreshing to be in a situation where you can just kind of throw things out there.
So let's take it to that level where we talk about generational, right? So, my mother came from or left her country, came to the U.S. Legally, by the way.
She was very fortunate to be able to do that.
So she waited in line, got her citizenship. I remember I was a child when I think she took the oath, and I don't remember where it was. It was here in Los Angeles. Could have been New York. I don't remember anymore. But she has strong views of. This goes back to the Kennedy days, right? Because the Bay of Pigs, all that stuff.
That stuff.
Yeah, so there's that. So obviously she came from her country, and her country was completely decimated by communists. She has very strong conservative views on our political structure, economic structure, and whatnot. So and she's hard right, but she does have that. Because I talked to her about the our the poor people of our country and the homelessness and all that kind of stuff, and bountiful empathy for less fortunate stuff. But
she's a Christian as well.
She has an issue with our political structure, and she was actually very happy that President Trump came roaring back.
Oh, she loves Trump.
Yeah. So,
but I will say in these conversations with her about being born in Cuba, growing up in Cuba before the revolution and everything that happened after, it's a very emotional thing to talk about. And, it's something that we want to talk more about here on the podcast. But I think it's important to share that she had a lot of family members that were, connected to Castro in some way, working with him or whatever. And she said that when it came down to it, right, and finding out that this cousin or this really good friend was, working with the enemy, in her words, it was very devastating for her, and to leave them behind was difficult, right?
Yeah. Understand the context of Castro's behavior in the early days was, he didn't tout himself a Marxist. He pulled the wool under everyone's, or the rug under everyone's feet because he didn't approach it that way. He later became a Marxist after he had gained control. So it was a little bit issue there. So I can understand how people could follow him. And then, boom, he reigns in communism as a platform. So
yeah, I mean, again, using to hear her stories of the true fear that she felt at the time. I understand why. She tells me all the time that if there's anyone on this earth that loves being an American, it's her, right? She feels more American than she does Cuban, despite the accent still, and despite all the years she's been here. there's anyone that loves this country, it's her.
That's right.
And I feel like there's a lot of people in her generation that feel that way, that they feel like they were saved by this country and given a better life.
Sure.
And that's the exact thing that is still being sold to immigrants, is that this country will save you.
However, people that have come in, the difference between my mother's generation is they learned the fabric of America. They learned the language of America. Today, these immigrants that come in today, whether legal or otherwise, they're not necessarily doing that. And there is a difference in how to approach becoming an American.
And it's interesting because in college, I used to teach a naturalization class while I was studying political science. And I was talking to Jacob about this the other day. And God, that naturalization test, it's difficult. And most Americans can't even pass it. And nowadays...
Because they don't teach civics in school.
They don't. And a lot of us are misinformed and miseducated about our country. And so it's the fact that lots of immigrants that love America so much, that want to be Americans so bad, know and love America more than Americans, born Americans. And that's just the irony of it all. And it's hard because, back when grandma took the naturalization test, and back when my mother's parents took it, they took it in Spanish, and they took it in their own native language. And nowadays you can't do that anymore. You have to learn English. And during the interview process, through the people I taught, if they said anything with even the smallest amount of accent, we'd shut them down immediately and say, hey, you can't say it like that, because they will fail you. It is extremely difficult to become a citizen and do it that way. So yes, did our grandparents and my mother's parents over time do it the right way because they had the capacity to do that? Of course. Yeah. But the way has changed over time drastically.
Sure. So, we look at generational, the older generation, certainly very conservative. We've got, as I was mentioning earlier, we've got two streams in our family that are, liberals and conservatives, and we're very respectful of it. And we generally don't talk about politics and large parties and stuff.
And we're not trying to change each other's mind.
No, we're just trying to we coexist with the understanding that we've got opinions that differ, and that's how most people and families probably are, right? So that's the beauty of being able to have good civil discourse, is for the most part, right? And I think that hopefully that will continue to flourish in a way where people continue that level of respect, at least within families, out there and otherwise, maybe not so much, but it is what it is, right?
I mean, I'll say there's growth in a lot of places, despite, the general just feeling of heaviness around. I always, Jacob will say, sometimes it feels like we're not catching a break, but I'm like, there's breaks everywhere, right?
Right.
God presents himself in all things. So, the fact that I'm able to wash my laundry here with my dad, even though I don't live here anymore, that's a break. Oh my God. Because that means I don't have to go to the laundromat, right?
Okay.
That, I promise you, this has a path.
Right.
And, I feel like over time, maybe since I've depoliticized my mind as much as I can, I've been able to laugh a little bit more about the craziness that's happening to me when I am of this world, right?
Right.
So the other day on this other podcast that I listened to, they're making a joke. It's all just goose and gas satire, but they're like, hey guys, we are big fans of Ben Shapiro now. We love Ben Shapiro. And I'm like, what the fuck
Who
are they
doesn't?
saying? Oh
He's
my
awesome.
God, this guy's crazy. And they're like, because Ben Shapiro is a theater geek and he loves Wicked.
Gotcha.
And I love Wicked. And so the fact that Ben Shapiro did this whole commentary about Wicked and made some really great points and just loves the book and loves the play.
Right.
I'm just like, you know what? We stand. Yeah. We stand today for Ben Shapiro.
One additional anecdote before we shut this down and move to the last segment, but it's kind of funny when TikTok, I think it was the 19th or the 18th, TikTok shut down, right? They'd indicated that because of legislation, they can no longer be serviced in the United States. So it was kind of funny. There are a whole bunch of young people that TikTok becomes their life, and they were just like, I have to get on TikTok for the last couple hours left.
And people were scrolling to the end,
to the very end, and then sure enough, TikTok CEO realized after discussions with the Trump administration prior to him taking office again that there was going to be an extension of TikTok's demise or end. So President Trump signed an executive order for 75-day extension, which gives TikTok some additional time to divest themselves from the Chinese Communist Party, which is great. So, but TikTok held firm because they had 9 months before that to do something.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while.
So hopefully TikTok's ownership gets shifted to a U.S. company. A lot of buyers, a lot of bidders out there for that. So that was another one of those executive orders. But I had to mention that because I know TikTok was a big issue. So for a lot of young people and stuff. So
and believe me, it's interesting. It's difficult because I feel like there's so many things happening right now with the California fires and TikTok, and seeing my gen freak out over TikTok. Holy shit. I mean, I deleted the app about a year ago.
Right.
And so I felt like my brain cells were just going to mush, so I deleted it.
We decided not to use TikTok because of this impending legislation, because we didn't want to invest in the time of TikTok until
if it was going to go away.
So.
I mean, I just did refuse to get on the app. Right. I'm like, I'm not going to get. And my sister-in-law or my brother's partner sends me videos all the time. I'm like, girl, you better explain the video to me verbatim, because I'm not gonna press that. I'm not gonna press that video. No. Right. But that was very interesting, and I saw my generation literally freak out. It was crazy.
Yeah. So just to wrap this component up, so it's funny, we've come a long way in the last from the last 4 years in just a short amount of time with his executive orders erasing the Biden existence in the White House. And I think it was done. He's already he's going to keep his promises about doing that. And so you said there was there was some scary feeling out there, and on the opposite side of that, I saw a lot of optimism in what I was reading and what I was listening to. So there's both sides of that, and I get it. So hopefully our new political structure our new government, I should say, will bring this country forward, and help the people that need to be helped, which are Americans. So hopefully that transpires. So it's a good thing. We'll see.
I'll just be watching.
We'll see.
Watching it all happen. Watching Twin Peaks in the meantime. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Morning, David Lynch, R.I.P. King.
Right. So
my question for you is, and I would truly love your perspective, and I'm not asking your party's perspective or whatever. Genuinely, is Elon Musk a Nazi? Was that? Just give me your opinion, because I saw it. Listened to lots of different opinions, saw lots of different tweets. I know people do weird shit sometimes just because it's their, whatever, but give me something.
It was funny. No, he's not. And, so it was kind of comical when that took place. Elon Musk has an imbalance, some enormous amount of excitement when he is about to speak.
USA.
And I'll tell you something, he is a genius, high level IQ. Mm-hmm. You can't do what he's done without having that level of intelligence. And I think that his level of excitement, I think what he was doing was reaching his heart and trying to demonstrate that to all the people in the audience. What a lot of media outlets did was obviously parody that against every other politician, even on the left, of similar excitement. And they have the exact same. Even Obama did it. So to this whole nuttiness,
I'm just saying,
that's
as a Jew, I want to know your perspective. Do you feel nervous by this gesture?
No, because he's Jewish, so I don't worry about it. It was just an element of excitement, and it is just the left trying to kind of stir the pot that they do. They love to do that. I think crazy Rachel Maddow, whether it's a he or she, I'm not sure, but Rachel, you know who I'm talking about, right? MSNBC.
Yeah, I don't watch that shit.
She's is some news opinion piece individual, and she made some weird commentary and that kind of stuff. But you expect that from those crazies at the MSNBC. That's why they're bankrupt. So no, he's not. And it was done so as a level. He was expressing an enormous bounty of excitement.
He does get excited. He jumps around like it's like and I know that that someone had made a comment about him having Asperger's.
Yeah. Some of the most intelligent people have autism or some level of spectrum.
Right.
So yeah, that's all it was. Just excitement. So
I just saw so much commentary online. People being like, "What is going on?" Even Jacob was like, "Babe," and I just laughed because it's so funny to me.
I thought it was funny because people got so involved in it. It was just stupid.
I'm still not too sure on my end, but I just thought I'd ask you.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. So, bring on Musk. We need his business acumen.
And nothing else.
There you go. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much. This is Life in the Bitter Truth. Please follow us on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Definitely like and subscribe. Please leave us some comments. And we are also on all the other platforms, podcast platforms. Everything from Apple Podcast all the way down to Amazon and everything in between, Spotify and the others. So thank you so much.
And we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Any other comments? Anything else?
No.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Bye.